So I have been flying my DJI Mini 4 Pro since I first purchased it a couple of months ago on day one, and I know I am a little bit delayed in bringing my review to you, but I really wanted to make sure I had put the Mini 4 Pro through its paces so that I could give you an accurate understanding as to whether this is going to be the drone for you. And since I have purchased this myself, I will be bringing you my own thoughts, and DJI have not sponsored this video in any way. But before we get into the specifics, I am going to just give you the TLDR, a brief summary of my overall thoughts, and then you can choose to watch the rest of the video or not. That is entirely up to you. But overall, I am absolutely impressed with what the Mini 4 Pro offers. Actually, it boggles my mind that DJI are able to cram so much impressive technology into a device such as this with a takeoff weight of less than 250 grams. That said, it may have been more accurate to call this the Mini 3 Pro 2 because it really feels like an upgrade to that drone rather than a new generational leap. Don't get me wrong, some of the new features here are absolutely welcome, for example the full obstacle avoidance. However, there are some things I would have liked to have seen improved from the Mini 3 Pro that are pretty much exactly the same, the main one being the main camera sensor. That doesn't mean that the Mini 4 Pro is not a fantastic product, it absolutely is, but if you are already flying the Mini 3 Pro, then that certainly gives you less reason to upgrade. Now, if you are flying the Mini 2, or maybe the original Mavic Mini, or perhaps even a larger drone, either from DJI or another brand, and are considering upgrading or changing that to a sub 250 gram model because of the extra freedom that allows you to have, then definitely the Mini 4 Pro is absolutely a worthy consideration. Or perhaps you are brand new to the hobby and thinking of your first drone, then again the Mini 4 Pro may be a worthy choice because, first off, it is incredibly easy to fly. Okay, you are not going to have any issues with it. It is extremely responsive. When you input controls, the Mini 4 Pro executes those controls perfectly, and it has a whole bunch of safety features that prevent you from accidentally crashing your drone or losing your drone. Okay, nothing's perfect in life, but in terms of putting this up against the competition, you would have to work really hard to do damage to this thing. So whether you are a beginner who perhaps is a little bit nervous about flying, or whether you are a seasoned pro and just want a more relaxed life, then the Mini 4 Pro does have a lot to offer. In terms of the specifications, as I mentioned, the Mini 4 Pro does come just under 250 grams. That is with an SD card installed and the Intelligent Flight battery. Now, there is an option to set up an Intelligent Flight Battery Plus, but you should note that that will take the Mini 4 Pro over that 250 gram limit, which means that you may be subject to more regulations during your flights. The maximum vertical speed, up or down, is 5 meters per second, and the max horizontal speed, forwards, is 16 meters per second. DJI rate the standard Intelligent Flight battery for up to 34 minutes of use on a single charge, and the drone, according to DJI, is capable of travelling up to distances of 18 kilometers on that battery. Of course, the drone has advanced GPS technologies, allowing it to keep its position very accurately in my experience. And also new to the Mini 4 Pro is precision landing. In order to use this, make sure you use the automatic takeoff function, let the drone hover for a second or two before commencing your flight, and then it should land within just a few inches of its initial takeoff position when it is time to do so. The camera imaging can boast up to 48 megapixels with a 1/1.3 inch sensor. This is, as I alluded to earlier, the same as with the Mini 3 Pro, so I would definitely say the camera has seen the least amount of upgrades in the Mini 4. However, that said, all of the Mini 3 Pro shooting modes are brought over to the Mini 4 Pro, including standard video recording at up to 4K 60 frames per second, but as a special thing here, you can actually choose to shoot in 4K 100 frames per second. Now, if you want even more slow motion, then the Mini 4 Pro is capable of 200 frames per second. Sadly, there is no hardware, i.e. optical zoom here. However, there is a digital zoom up to 3 times at 4K resolution. And as I mentioned, there is full omnidirectional obstacle avoidance here with sensors situated on the bottom, the front and the top of the drone. It is important to note, however, that the obstacle avoidance does not work in all shooting modes, so make sure you are aware of your surroundings, for example, if you are flying in sports mode. Another change if you are coming from the Mini 3 Pro is that DJI have upgraded the video transmission here to OcuSync 4, however they are now simply calling it O4. This uses the same Wi-Fi radio transmission as the Mini 3 Pro, however you will now be able to have a live feed of 1080p above the 720p from the Mini 3 Pro with the screen controller here, and there are additional antenna both with the screen controller that was included with my Mini 4 Pro and built into the drone itself that should give you a stronger connection. The OcuSync technology will still do all of its magical stuff, including the automatic switching between radio bands and channels in order to serve the needs of the time. Charging the battery can take a little bit of time, so I strongly only advise you do so with a fast wall charger. If you are not using a fast charger, you can expect charging to take several hours. You can also invest in the combo bundle, and that will also include a couple of additional batteries to make sure you are not running out of juice in the middle of a shoot. So I brought the Mini 4 Pro out for the next part of the review, and that's because I want to go for a live flight with you guys and demonstrate the actual software that DJI pair with this thing. So it is the DJI Flight app, but it does have a number of features, some of which are not available with the predecessor to this drone. So I'm all set up here. We have the live view on the controller itself. So this is the 1080p live view. We have the antenna in position to make use of that OcuSync 4, although I'm not really going to need it today because I'm not going to be flying far. So we'll get the drone into the air now, and then I'm going to go through some of the features of the Flight app with you. I do recommend, as I already mentioned, to use the automatic takeoff, and that's simply because you are then going to have that precision landing in place if you need to use it. So let's gain some altitude here, and then we'll go through some of the actual features of the Fly app that you may be interested in. Okay, so 34 meters in the air, 45 meters away from our position. Of course, the app gives you all of the telemetry that you need in order to go through your flight successfully. Right now on the bottom left of the screen you can see I have the compass telemetry. You can change this if you want a more traditional map system in place, and the app will show you the drone's location and also your location as the pilot, so you can always see where the drone is in relation to yourself. The great thing about using the compass, however, is it does show you how the drone is banking. It's a little bit windy today, so that's important for me to know. And then up in the top right, you can see we have our satellite connection. I currently have a connection to 23 satellites, so that should be a nice strong connection there. We have the precision landing enabled. That's the two little arrows up and down. And then we have our transmission, which as you can see is currently a full set of 5 bars. And then we also have the battery. Now, this is really important to note because obviously if you have flown the drone quite far away from your position, you will still need to return it before running out of juice. So the battery indicator is given with 3 colours: green, amber and red. If it's green, then the software thinks that you will be able to return the drone no problems without running out of battery. However, if it starts to get into the orange, the amber or into the red colours, then you definitely need to make sure that you are trying to land the drone as soon as possible. There are a number of safety features as well built in, so it's not just going to fall out of the sky. It will do a forced landing. If the battery juice gets so low and you still haven't manually landed, then it is just going to do that for you. Obviously, you don't want it to get to that point because it may land in an inconvenient position and you'll have to hunt the drone down, but at least you know it is going to hopefully stay safe. There are 3 modes here. We have our cine mode, which is effectively the slow mode. This is great if you are trying to capture cinematic shots. There is the normal mode and there is the sport mode. That is where you are going to be able to reach some of those max speeds, both vertically and horizontally, up to 16 meters per second in a windless environment. One thing to note about sports mode is it will disable the obstacle avoidance. So let's go through some of these settings here. First off, if we head over to the camera settings, you can see we have photo, video, master shots, quick shots, hyperlapse and pano. So most of these are self-explanatory. Video, which is where I spend most of my time, Also gives you a number of options as well. Under video, you have your standard shooting mode, your night mode, or slow motion. So if you want to access those 100 frames per second in 4K, then slow motion is what you are going to want to select. You can see down here at the bottom right, we have 4K 100 FPS, or we can choose 1080p, either 100 or 200 FPS. As I say, for the most part, I tend to keep it in normal shooting mode. Now, master shots are really interesting. I mean, okay, for some they're a bit of a gimmick, but they can create cool looking shots. The drone will automatically take a number of shots, in fact, and then the software will edit those shots down into a bit of a video clip with some music as well that you can share then on social media. Quick shots are a selection of inbuilt shots that you can have the drone do for you. For example, the rocket, the droney, the circle, which is an orbit, or the helix boomerang. There's a few, okay, and they are quite fun, which means that, again, the drone will just perform those actions for you automatically and just give you an easier life. The hyperlapse feature is something I do actually find myself using quite regularly. And if you don't know what a hyperlapse is, the drone will effectively take many different photographs, but while the drone itself is actually moving slowly, and then the software will stitch those photos together for you to create an awesome effect video. So for example, this is a hyperlapse shot that I took earlier on. You can see how it works, and this is just on a standard course lock, but as I say, there are other options you can choose from, including, for example, the waypoint course. Now, this was actually available on the Mini 3 Pro, believe it or not, but waypoints as a whole have only just become available for the first time in the Mini series with the Mini 4 Pro, at least officially. And then the final shooting option is pano, and again there are a number of options here. A pano shot is effectively a number of different photographs that are stitched together to make a much larger image. In terms of the shooting modes, right now I have it set to auto, but you can easily tap this into pro mode where you are able to adjust the ISO rating, the shutter speed, and make a few other manual adjustments to the exposure settings as well. So yep, the Mini 4 Pro is compatible with ND filters, and these are a great choice if you want to capture some really stunning imagery, and those manual settings will give you everything you need to make sure that you are able to do so. Now, one of the great things about the Mini 4 Pro is that you can actually just tap this button here next to the record, and that will actually switch the gimbal into vertical shooting mode. So this isn't just the number of pixels being reduced, the whole camera itself is switching vertically, which means you are still getting that full 4K image quality. Yet there is no optical zoom, I think I mentioned that inside, but with 4K resolution you can digitally zoom up to 3 times. And then if we head over to the settings menu, then you can see the adjustments that can be made. For example, obstacle avoidance can be set either to off, not recommended unless you really need to get up close and personal. The brake option will mean that the drone will automatically slow down and stop before it crashes, or bypass means that the drone will try and find another path around an obstacle that it would otherwise hit. Just bear in mind that the safest of these is the brake option, so it is still possible to crash the drone with obstacle avoidance, but it's much less likely with the brake option selected. Return to home is a great feature, pretty standard on, well, any drone nowadays. AR I tend to keep turned off. I find this a little bit of a gimmick more than anything else. I do have the show aircraft shadow option enabled because that helps with your landings, and I do have the AR home point enabled. In fact, let me just show you that now. If I turn the camera around here, if I turn the drone around, you can see that little H symbol. That is my actual location. Okay, and that will always be there. No matter how far away I fly, I will always keep that AR home point on the actual live view so I know how to get the drone back safely. Okay, but I do have the return to home route disabled. That's what I was talking about. I don't like that. It just makes a mess of the screen, and I don't really see the point of it. And then you have the Find My Drone feature, which I've never had to use, thankfully, but if your drone has to make an emergency landing, or if somehow you do crash it, for example, into a tree, then using the Find My Drone will help you retrieve the drone. Under the control menu, here you can change your settings. There are camera settings that can be changed as well. If you want to shoot in 10-bit D-Log, you have that option. So what I'm going to do now is just take the drone to about 65 metres is probably sufficient, and a little bit of a distance away, and I'm going to show you the return to home in action. Now, the return to home will kick in automatically if the drone gets lost or if it loses connection. but you can do this manually as well. So about 300 meters. What I'm going to do now is just tap the return to home button, and then at that point I can literally put the controller down. The drone is going to come back to where it flew off from automatically, and hopefully, thanks to that precision landing, it should be fairly accurate as well. Okay, I can just see it returning now. Trying to capture that with my phone. Here it comes. And on the screen we can see the shadow as well. And I've got to say, that is really accurate with that precision landing. That is very, very impressive. There it goes. Yes, that is literally within about 6 inches of the takeoff location.
Takeoff. Home point updated.
And one thing I do want to show you as well is that the active track works really well with the Mini 4 Pro. We just need to select the subject, in my case, myself, and as I move around here, then the drone is going to follow us. It is going to use that obstacle avoidance, so I should be safe to walk around the trees here. But you can see it's keeping me in the focus of the frame. I'm not pushing anything on the controller here. The Mini 4 Pro is taking care of all those movements for me. And you don't have to only follow, for example, a person. You can choose to follow a vehicle. Right, so let's bring the drone in for another landing here.
Landing.
And one other feature that I really like with the Mini 4 Pro is the waypoint feature. So this wasn't available with the Mini 3 Pro, at least not the full feature. You could use it with the hyperlapse, but obviously that is quite limited then. But with waypoints, you can plan these in advance, okay? You can plot your course on the map, and then the drone will automatically complete that flight for you. Or you can plot them whilst the drone is in the air manually by flying the drone to each point, adding it as a point, and then doing that for the whole course. Then the drone will complete that course very smoothly. It turns without any jitter, and I've got to say, it is a really neat feature. It can make your flights look extremely professional, even if you are a complete beginner. But folks, it's starting to get a little bit chilly out here, so let's get back inside and I'll share some final thoughts with you. Right, so in conclusion, this thing is absolutely fantastic. I would go as far as to say that it is the quintessential drone within the Mini sub 250 gram category. This is absolutely perfect for the hobbyist, whether you are a beginner or a more seasoned pilot. Or perhaps if you are a professional drone flyer, then the Mini 4 Pro is still absolutely worth considering. The only proviso, as I mentioned at the start really, is that if you are already flying the DJI Mini 3 Pro, there may not quite be enough here for you to warrant an upgrade. And it is unfortunate that the camera here has hardly been upgraded in any way from the previous generation, but maybe DJI want to hold off something for the Mini 5, I'm not sure. But anyway folks, yeah, the Mini 4 Pro is still absolutely incredible. Another banger here from DJI. I have been flying this a lot, absolutely love it. But I am interested, as always, in hearing your thoughts on the matter. Do you fly the Mini 4 Pro? It's been out for a while now, so I'm sure many of you have already got your hands on this. Please share your own perspectives, and thank you so much for watching the video. I'll see you next time.